Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new here, my name is Andy Wynn. I am a current M1 at the Medical College of Georgia, and I will be starting in literally the next few weeks. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you may have noticed that my path to med school involved being in a BSMD program. So my program was at a relatively small university with, I think, around 3,500 or so undergrad students, but other programs around the country are at big universities such as Penn State, Ohio State, Temple, and more. Because these programs are becoming more popular, each of them will have their own ways of selling themselves to students. So today, to get kind of a better perspective of just the differences between a small school and a big school BSMD program, I am joined by a special guest. He was generous enough to reach out and support the channel, and he also has a YouTube channel of his own. He goes to the Penn State BSMD program. He is currently in his 3rd year. He is on the Penn State Barstool team, athlete, pre-med, creator, all of the above. He's a great guy. Without further ado, introduce you, Josh Chen.
Okay.
Alright. Say hi, Josh. To the camera.
What's up?
Say hi to the camera.
Hi.
Alright. Oh man, this is gonna be fun. Thank you. Thanks Josh for coming on the channel, agreeing to interview. Sorry to take you away from your valuable MCAT study time. I know you're preparing for it right now.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Let's get right into the interview. So we're talking BSMD programs today, which it's kind of a vague title at this point because there's so many different ways programs can go depending on the university. So kind of want to start out, what is the outline of your program? And you go to the Penn State University program, right?
Okay, so a basic outline would, it's pretty standard. It's a 7-year accelerated track BSMD program. So it's 3 years that you spend at Penn State and then 4 years at Sidney Kimmel Medical College. And a lot of kids don't really know at the time, but Penn State's not anywhere close to where Sidney Kimmel Medical College is. It's actually 4 hours away in like the middle of Pennsylvania. So you spend 3 years like in the middle of Pennsylvania, and then you go to Jefferson, which is in Philadelphia, for 4 years for medical school. And the academic requirements are just keep a 3.5 GPA, 3.5 science GPA, and get a 504 on the MCAT, and then that's all you need to matriculate into medical school.
Okay, solid. That's 504 is pretty low. Isn't that like...
Yeah.
What percentile is that? Do you know?
I think it's like 60.
60?
Yeah.
Good God. All right.
What did you guys need to stay in?
5'11".
Oh, that's much.
So it's rough, man. But 5'11's like, it's a challenge but doable. 504, that's public advertisement to the Penn State program.
That's what I really like about it. Like a lot of other programs, like if you go to like Northwestern, or like the Rutgers programs, TCNJ, a lot of the New Jersey programs don't even have a score requirement. All they have is you have to take the MCAT. That's it. But I think 504 might be a little too low for like that, but I think a lot of the schools that don't require you to take the MCAT, you kind of miss out on a little bit of like that, like practice for when you have to take the step 1 or when you have to take the step 2, those like long like science-based tests. And I think having to take the MCAT with a small, like very doable like score requirement is like a good thing. So that's what I like, how Penn State has like an almost like impossible to get under like requirement, but you still have to take the MCAT.
Yeah. I get really confused when I hear BSMD programs like waive the MCAT. I'm like, I feel like that's just setting students up for failure because you need to learn how to sit down and study and like turn your brain on superpower mode for 7.5 hours straight. It's just going to be a part of med school when you get there.
Next question. Obviously, a big part of every program is your classwork, coursework, academic rigor. So what has been your experience so far? You're in your last year of the undergrad portion of your program. What's been kind of your experience with how hard things have been and how you've handled it?
I think the difficulty is definitely there. It's really doable if you just put in the effort. If that's something you prioritize, then it's not a huge issue. Like, we're taking like between 15 and 20 credits a semester, which is maybe just the slightest bit more than like the average student, but I know a lot of other students that are like taking the same or more like credits that aren't in BSMD programs. So we're taking like a relatively rigorous course load and relatively early as well. Like, we're starting on our advanced level. Look, we have it like 100, 200, 300, 400 level classes.
Yeah.
Same thing where you're from, or?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So we're starting on our like 400 level classes. Some people are starting on them like second semester of freshman year. I started on them first semester of sophomore year. So like, we're starting on like the more advanced courses like really early, but I think if you just put in that effort, it's really doable. And an advantage of the BSMD program is just, even if the courses are really hard, you don't necessarily have to do like the best on them, if that makes sense, because you have that like 3.5. We have that 3.5 GPA like minimum. So I have friends who want to take advantage of their time in a BSMD program to like be involved in extracurriculars and like play more sports and do all those things, right? And so if they have like 2 really hard classes and like 3 easy classes, they'll just spend their time getting A's in the easy classes, get an A in one of the hard classes, and like one of the classes they know that they can just get a B and like they'll be fine. So I guess that's one of the advantages. Even though like the classes are hard, like you can work around the difficulty, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like, do you guys run on a plus minus system, or is it just straight up like B is 3.0?
Okay, so yeah, that's where our program has really specific like rules. Like it's really specific. So basically, Penn State has a besides from A+, they have a plus minus system. So like, we have A minus, B plus, B minus. We don't have A+. And our program's GPA, your GPA is calculated based off of just the solid letter grade. So if you get a A minus, it's rounded up to an A. But if you get a B plus, it's rounded down to a B.
Okay.
So like,
so it's basically not, it's like a plus minus system, but not really?
Yeah, so Penn State has a plus minus system. When calculating our GPA for the program, it's not a plus minus system. It's just A, B, C.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then we have it so that when you're either a freshman or a sophomore, if you're taking a 400 level class, if you get a C, your GPA bumps up to a B, and if you get a B, your GPA bumps it up to an A. So there's like a lot of buffering built in.
What the heck, man?
Yeah. So that's what I meant by like hard classes. I had some friends who just like be like, oh, to get a C, I have to put in like 1 hour a week. Okay. So they just wouldn't really do that much and still end up with a decent grade.
Yeah. Dude, that's crazy. Because like for us, our GPA requirements are 3.7.
Yeah.
And like our entire university doesn't run on our plus minus system. So like, even if you get an 89.4. That's a 3, and so like for us, B's hurt a lot. So it's like when you're beginning the program calculating out, I think you can, depending on the credit hours of the course, you can only get like 3 or 4 B's in your entire thing.
I think it's a lot worse when you're calculating it than when you're actually like doing it. In my opinion, at least. Like, shit, like orgo, like because like high school, like you know, like a lot of us going into BSMD programs were kind of like somewhat at the top of our high schools, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, like you hear about everyone, they're like, oh, like when you go to college, like you won't be the top fish anymore. You'll be like average in this. And then so I was like, oh, I guess college is gonna be the first time I end up like getting like worse grades or like experiencing what it's like to like not get the grade you want, right?
Yeah.
But then like I was like, oh, maybe it's orgo, right? Like orgo, maybe I'll get a B. Then like that didn't really happen. As long as you put in the effort, like you can do it. And then I was like, maybe it's like physics or like physiology or biochem or something. And like in the end, if you just put in the work, like it's really possible to like, end up with the grades you want.
Yeah, I like the advice I give to a lot of the incoming students and younger students is like never go into a class telling yourself that this is the class I'm gonna save my B in, because it's like if you come in with that mentality, like you're not even giving yourself a fighting chance. So just go into it trying to do the best you can. If you get a B, whatever. But most people, they put in the effort, they end up getting an A. So that's nice. I think one of the things I'm curious about being in a bigger program, obviously, class size is probably way bigger than my average class size. I think our biggest lecture hall was maybe 80 people, 80 to 100 people. So like how is that environment going through like even your 400, 4,000 level upper classes?
Okay, yeah, then it's definitely different. When I took first of all, Penn State is like one of the biggest schools you can go to, just in general. Like when we're talking about like big BSMD programs, there's no other school you can go to that can like compare. Like I know a lot of the other BSMD programs are schools with like 20,000 kids undergraduate enrollment, but Penn State we're like 40,000. Like even just in general as a school, we're one of the biggest schools you can go to. So like I think in terms of that, like it's an environment that like that can't be matched anywhere else. Like when I took I still had to take bio 100, right? Or bio 110 or whatever, like the intro bio, like, and we had that in a 1,000-person lecture hall. Okay, it's called Thomas 100. If you want to look it up later, like you can add some B-roll or something. I don't know, but like it's a 1,000-person lecture hall. Okay, you go in and you're like, what the hell am I? Or like maybe like 800-person, but it's somewhere around there. Largest lecture hall at Penn State. It's like, yeah, no, it's like. I came from a high school where my graduating class size was like 126 people, okay? So I was like, what?
That's a slap in the face.
I was like, this is like, in one day, in one class, larger than my entire high school was, okay? And then...
Did you enjoy it, though?
No, yeah, it was nice, like, cause like, you pretty much know, like, everyone, and you know what's going on, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then, so... when you get to larger level, like 400 level classes, you're even at like 200 level classes, you're taking them in like 300 person lecture halls. Okay, like pretty much the latest classes I took were 400 level were physiology and biochem 2. And biochem 2, there were probably 300 kids. Physiology, maybe like 100 something. Like even though they're a lot smaller than like 1,000 or 800, like it's still like
that's still bigger than my biggest class size I've experienced. Yeah, exactly. Which is wild.
But like you also do have like small classes. Like in my English, they split up all like the intro English classes into like 15-person like classes, or like public speaking or something. Like we have to take public speaking as a requirement, and they split that up into like 15, 20-person classes.
Alrighty. Well, I mean, I guess it didn't really impact the way you study or how well you do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe faculty relations. Maybe it's harder to get like office hours and stuff.
I guess I never really went to office hours. So
the truth comes out.
No, it's like I guess first of all, one of the good things about being in the program is like, how many kids are in your like class? Like program class?
Like the cohort?
Yeah, the cohort.
So we have, in mine it was 22 MDs and then 8 DMDs.
Okay.
So we have a BSDMD too.
So our like my year specifically has the most like coming in of like Penn State history. So we have like 45 kids in ours, but just in general, like that's not the like average, if that makes. But like with like 40 some other kids, like most of which are taking like the same classes as you, like when you have questions, sometimes you just ask them, or even if you don't have questions, sometimes like the like slightly nerdier ones will go into our group chat and be like, yo, I just went to office hours and like
I know exactly how you feel.
This teacher like said like this, so you guys gotta watch out. Well, I didn't know that, but thank you. Like,
dude, that's exactly how I was in my chat too. I'm like, thanks for the information. You went and got it for us.
So like office hours, they're busy, but like you could definitely get a spot. And in terms of getting but I just never had that need per se. Like the classes were not like the classes that I took in the beginning, at least, like orgo physics, like and all that other stuff, were not like tricky enough that I had to ask like really specific questions. And sometimes if your class is large enough, your teacher won't even have like, they'll have office hours, but they'll also have like just like they'll be like at 10:30 on Sunday, like I'm having a session for like questions in this room, and like 50 people will show up, and like even though like 50 is a lot, it's a lot less than like 1,000, and like it's really doable to get all your questions answered. And in terms of
that's good.
In terms of like how close you can get to professors, I haven't tried that much. I've only ever talked a bit more to my Soc professor. Super cool guy. He's in one of my videos. Like super interesting guy, super nice guy. And like I think if you're interested, it's definitely not that hard to be able to like get closer to a professor.
It's just a matter of like effort.
Yeah.
And everything. Fair enough. I guess that's the answer to everything.
Yeah.
You get out as much as you put in.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we've been on this topic for long enough. Let's move on to more exciting things. So I know you're on the Penn State Barstool team.
Mm-hmm.
You put out a video about that like a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago. You're a content creator. But outside of that, are there any perks in terms of extracurricular activities of going to a big school that like you think is cool, that you've experienced or seen?
Perks of being part of it. What do you mean by that? Like,
so like, okay, this is kind of like a follow-up question, but for example, a lot of my cohort got involved in Greek life. I rushed a fraternity my freshman year, and I was in it all 3 years of undergrad. Like, did you or any of your other cohort members, did they ever consider rushing a fraternity or sorority? Or was that like just completely out of the question? And that goes the same with stuff like IM and club sports, different societies, or did they just stick with the straight up like nerdy academic clubs and didn't really branch out? You know what I mean?
Some people I have a lot of respect for a lot of the people that keep doing like the rural health like clubs or like that type of thing, because like we don't have to do anything, right? Like most of the students just do like a little bit of research or something, right? But the ones that still like go back to like do like the rural health mission and stuff, like I'm like, I have a lot of respect for that, because they're doing it because they want to. They don't really get anything out of it, you know what I mean? They're doing it because they find it important. And I guess in that respect, I haven't really done much of that stuff while in college. I wish I could have done some more. But like, as school was going on, it was just something I was like, I want to focus on my grades more, and I guess that kind of got like lost in the mix. But I know a lot of people, we have something called like Thon. It's like a dance marathon type of thing. Like, it's sort of like, you won't, okay, unless you're from the East Coast in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York region, you won't have heard of what it is unless...
Is it kind of similar to like dance marathon, like the Miracle Dance Marathon?
Yeah, except we have the largest college dance marathon in the entire world. So every year we raise like $11-12 million for like... And they just dance like continuously for 46 hours.
Yeah.
And then like we have like millions of people that will like come in. Like I think we had like Nick Jonas or like Justin Timberlake or like Mason Ramsey and them. They all came and like, and just like a bunch of people like come and perform during Thon. So I know a lot of people like can get more involved in Thon because they have like more time. So we have like cool activities like that. And one of my good friends, she's like the president of the music service club where they go around to like nursing homes and play music and stuff. And then they were able to perform at Thon like in front of like 15,000 people. So that's pretty cool. And then like, let's see, I have other friends. Like I'm part of club tennis. I have like, there's only like 1 or 2 other people who are part of club tennis that are in the program, but like it's an option you have. And I know a lot of the people in the program like playing IM sports because it's like, it's cheaper, it's less of a commitment. Like you just get a team of like 10 friends and go play like a soccer game every week or something like that, or play like flag football. So a lot of people like getting involved in that. In terms of other stuff, what other things do other people do?
I guess that a good question to ask is like, what's the coolest or most like unique thing that you feel that at least was an option to you being at a big school? Because like for me, my student life was
I'd say
dodge.
I'd say being at a big school, anything is possible. I'm not gonna like lie. Like it's not like everything's an option, but you can make anything an option. It's not like people are coming up to you as like, yo, like, do you wanna like join like the skydiving team? I don't know what's like random or like cool, but like if you wanted to, you could go on like the skydiving team and do your own thing, you know what I mean? And in terms of
just say something about like knowing you never considered Greek life, but
yeah. I mean, I just didn't really consider Greek life just because like at Penn State, Greek life is, if you do it, you gotta have that commitment. That has to be your like life. Otherwise, like you might as well just not do it. And there's that whole reputation that comes with Penn State Greek life that like it's a big like thing to step into.
So next question, do you ever regret going to a BS&D program? Or like what are kind of the chief complaints from your cohort being in a program like this?
I guess similarly enough to you, but also different. Like one of the biggest complaints is not so much about the program, because I don't think there's that much to complain about in the program. Like things, because we're like over 50 years old. The program started in 1963, so they ironed things out pretty well over the years. Like they figured out like what the GPA requirements should be and like what you can do, what you can't do. So that stuff's all pretty nice, but Penn State in general is just not in the best of locations. So like you have a lot of that like student life stuff that you could do, right? But like where's you go to Augusta? Is that how you pronounce it?
Augusta. Yeah.
Augusta. Where's that located in Georgia? Like,
so it's like right on the border of Georgia and South Carolina. It's on the river.
Is it like a hick place though? Like
it's actually the second largest city in Georgia.
Okay.
Obviously Atlanta is the first biggest city. Mm-hmm. But it's
like how's it?
You gotta make your own fun. I grew up here, so I know all the good spots to go to. But you exhaust your resources real quick.
Interesting. Just Penn State is like, it's called Happy Valley. The second you step out of Happy Valley, you're just in a bunch. You're in like 50 miles to the north, west, east, south of like farms. Okay, that's it. That's all there is. Like, just farm. The one thing is like, a lot of people don't like how like, it's similar, right? Like you could take part in clubs and stuff like that, but like some people like choose not to. Like sometimes they're larger commitments and stuff. Like you don't necessarily just want to like spend all your time doing clubs. Sometimes they're like, we want to get like good food, right? Or we want to like go do something. But like the second you step off the Penn State campus, there's not that much at all that you can do. Like the nearest movie theater is like 10 miles, but you gotta like drive, and like only like a few people have cars, you know what I mean? The biggest complaint I think isn't so much with the BS70 program as with like just being a Penn State student and being in that location, I would say. It's really, I come to appreciate the fact that like you can make for yourself anything you want at Penn State. Like you can shape. It's not so much the school that like sets those limits on you. It's you that like can choose what you want to do at the school because it just has so much to offer. Yeah, no, I got another thing. Like, so a really interesting like book you can read is called The Righteous Mind, right? A big portion of the book is like about like moral psychology and group psychology. And one of the biggest things he talks about is religion. And part of the reason why religion is so like prevalent is just because it's where a bunch of different people can come together as a group and function as one in a group, okay? A really interesting thing is the closest thing that you can find outside of religion to religion is sports, because you unite a large group of people and they all either are for one thing or for the other team, right? Like, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like they're all like, it's that hive mindset, that's what they call it, that sports and religion both stimulates in our brain, right? And so going to Penn State, I told you I went to a school with a class size of 126. We had basically a non-existent football team. Sports in that capacity, like we had like one of the best tennis teams in like the state, but that's different. That's like tennis, right? Like it's like no one. Yeah. That's not that. Like football, that sport that brings people together, we didn't really have. And then when I went to Penn State, 108,000 people together in a stadium at the same time, like suddenly that's like the first time I began to understand what that like sports hive mindset was about. Like I was a Rutgers kid, right? And I would sit in the Penn State stands the first game and be like, well, I like Rutgers, like this is Penn State, this is our rival, but I'd still be like, shit, whatever. I want Penn State to win still, because I go to Penn State and this is kind of crazy seeing like this many people here to like support Penn State. So I guess going to such a big school, another thing, like become like a fan of like where you go, because there are just so many people that are always like, oh, like Penn State, like if that makes sense. Like you kind of get sucked into that high mindset.
Yeah, I mean like that was a big part of me rejecting my BS&D decision at first, because like I grew up kind of a Georgia fan, and I like back in high school I was student body president of football, like student section leader, all that. Like I love the crowds, I love the energy. It was so much fun, and like you said, kind of that camaraderie type mentality. And that was one of the things that AU doesn't have. We have a basketball team. Yeah. And we're in like the Peach Belt Conference, which
I don't know
heard of the Peach Belt Conference, and like the only sports accolade we have is we were back-to-back D1 men's golf national championships. So it's like, I mean, you can't go watch golf. Like
I mean, you could.
Well, I mean, like, there's nothing to
yeah.
go out. It's not going to sell tickets. It's not going to get a crowd together.
No, that's true.
There was not much. That's part of the reason why student life kind of sucks at a smaller school, especially like us, that doesn't have a lot of extracurriculars, because there's nothing to build that sense of community and camaraderie.
Yeah.
And that's something I definitely miss from a big school. So I think it kind of just confirms what I've been thinking.
The best thing about like sports at a big school, like even outside of just like basketball, like football, blah blah blah, like is the sports that you've never heard of, or like you've heard of, but like you're like, what the fuck is this for, right? Like that, like for example, like I've been golfing once, just because like I was like, I want to try it, right? And I'm like, this is hard shit. And like I like bowling, not like a pro or anything. Like at Penn State, if you're like, oh, like I just want to see how like actually good people go do it, like you can go see like good people do it. If you're like, oh, I've never tried fencing, but I want to see how like a good fencing tournament actually is, you just go watch like Penn State fencing, you know what I mean? Like, or like, yeah, that type of thing. I think that's what's good about like at least the sports at Penn State.
Okay. Well, like, yeah, that's a big plus. I think a lot of big schools have over a small school, just like student life in general, and obviously sports. I've been a sports fan basically all my life, so it sucks not having that kind of energy here.
Yeah.